friends. Today we are going to discuss about ECG interpretation, that how we interpret ECG according to the electrical conduction, electrical activity of the heart. So before going through the interpretation of ECG, I will like to describe a little bit about the conduction pathway and the chamber of the heart and their contractility. So as we know that the automaticity is generated by the SA node, then internodular pathways and a Beckman's pathway, and here we can make the AV node and then bundle of His, and after right and left bundle, then the potential system. I think every student knows the electrical conductivity and the pathway of the heart. So the SA node generates the electrical impulses at the rate of 60 to 90, and this electrical impulse then conduct down through that of the internodular pathway and the Beckman's pathway, which cause the contractility of the left atrium. So this is what the conduction. But here the impulses which are falling other than that of the AV node, they cannot conduct down to that of the ventricles, and this is because that this is what the fibrous skeleton of the heart, and this act as an insulator. It will not allow the conduction to pass down to that of the ventricle. So all the stimulus, all the impulses which is separating to that of the atrium, they separate the whole atrium, they fall on the fibrous capsule but cannot pass, but only those impulses which fall on the AV node, they can pass through the bundle of His, then toward that of the ventricles. So here this is what the conduction pathway, and after this, for example, this is your heart, that is the ventricles, so my diagram is not so beautiful. This is what the ventricle suppose. So depolarization starts from here. It depolarizes the atriums and then depolarize the ventricles. So we will explain the ECG according to the depolarization of atrium and ventricles. This is what the ECG, this is what we called P wave, Q, R, S and T. This is what we called QRX complex, P wave and T wave. So how can we interpret the different waves and different intervals? So as we know, as we discussed, that the atrium start to depolarizing first, then this depolarization leads to ventricles. So for example, during ECG, we place an electrode over the heart, and the depolarization starts from the SA node toward downward, and it depolarizes the atrial muscle. So it means that depolarization is moving downward. For example, if you move a positive charge toward positive, we interpret or we make a wave like this, that upward side toward the upside. This means that positive toward positive. In this case, the situation is same. We know that depolarization means toward positive and repolarization means toward negative. This is what the graphical presentation of depolarization of the heart muscles, that it will depolarize little bit rapid repolarizing phase, plateau phase, and then repolarization phase. This phase what we call zero phase, one phase, two phase, phase 3, and phase 4. So we can say that depolarization means moving toward the positive. So here the depolarization means that the impulse is moving toward positive, mean depolarization moving downward. This means that depolarization means positive charges are positive toward positive. So here we can interpret a positive wave which is not downward, which is in upward direction. That is the P wave. It's moving from the above side of the normal line. So we can say depolarization toward downward or toward positive electrode is presented in this direction. So the depolarization of the atrium is slow and gradual. It's not so strong depolarization because the atrium contain a little bit typical muscles. So the muscle layer is not so thick as that of the ventricles. So the depolarization is a little bit slow and a smaller depolarization. So we can draw a small graph, and this P present the depolarization of the atriums. After this, the depolarization wave reached to that of the AV node, then bundle of his, then left and right ventricles. So whenever the depolarization process or the impulses reach to the AV node, it stay for a while here. Impulses fall here, and all the impulses which fall on this direction, this position, these sides, they die away. They will not pass to the ventricle, and all those impulses which are falling the AV node, they will pass across the AV node, but they stay for a while. They stay for a little interval of time here. Why they stay? This is because the depolarization process in AV node is carried out by calcium ions. So the calcium mediated depolarization is slow than that of the sodium mediated depolarization, as they initiate in the muscles and in the SA node. So here the impulses stay for a little bit short time. We can say from here to here, the time taken by depolarization impulses to reaching here is 0.03, and here it will stay for 0.09 seconds. It will stay here. After this, the depolarization will move to the bundle of His, and it start to give the to that of the left and right bundles. Then the left and right bundle receive like downward direction, and it start depolarizing the muscles present into the interventricular septum. So this left and right bundle, they depolarize. So maximally in some books we can say, we can read that in some books it was written that the depolarization of the septum is only mediated by the right bundle, and the right bundle is a little bit like this. So it will depolarize the interventricular muscle in upward direction. The impulses through the bundle and it gives to the muscles, and this depolarization move little bit upward direction and depolarize it from down to up direction. So this shows that the depolarization is carried out toward the negative and away from the positive. So the depolarization means positive toward negative, we consider it as a negative toward downward direction. So a little wave, a smaller wave we can make on the ECG graph toward downward direction, a little bit small. Why this is so small? Because here the muscles, we know that there is a little amount of the muscle present in interventricular septum. So this depolarization takes a very short time and depolarize rapidly. After this, the impulses, for example, it will toward downward direction, toward positive depolarization. It is little bit upward, but it is small. And after this, the impulses move toward the precondial system, and this precondial system depolarizes the ventricular muscles. Start to depolarizing the ventricular muscles. It will depolarize, and we can make a graph like this, a point or depolarization toward the positive. But this depolarization is very strong. Why this depolarization is very strong? Because a lot of muscle present into the ventricles. So this lot of muscle will take a lot of time and it will depolarize very strongly. So we can we can make a very high depolarization graph. This is what the depolarization of in the both ventricles, excluding the interventricular septum. This is what the septum, this is what the ventricles, and this is I will define. After depolarization, which depolarize the precondial system like this, depolarizes the muscles of the ventricles in downward direction. It will in this direction. It will depolarizing, and at the base of the ventricles, the depolarization will move upward like this. The impulses move upward. So this again at the same date of the septum, it is moving toward negative. So we'll present a small curve here. After this, a complete depolarization of the ventricles occur. The ventricle depolarize completely and the ventricle contract completely, and the ventricles contract and stay for a little bit short time. It will stay contract, and this contraction presented a silent wave here. After this, the repolarization start. Why I make a repolarization to upward direction? Because we know that there are different layer of muscles. The innermost muscle of muscle of the myocardium, the intermediate muscle, and the outer muscle. Whenever the depolarization occur, the pressure of the blood, we know that the ventricles are not empty, they have the blood. So the blood pressure exert a pressure on these layers, and it will suppress the circulation in this area. It will inhibit the circulatory system or inhibit the blood supply to the inner system. So the repolarization starts from the outer layer. So repolarization from outer layer to the inner layer. It will move from the outer layer to the inner layer. It means that it's going upward. Negative repolarization is coming again toward negative. So negative towards negative, it will be positive. So negative again negative toward positive. So I make a T graph, T curve, T wave in a positive direction. So I will discuss here that is as we discussed, 0.03 is the time of reaching impulses uh, from the SA node to AV node. It will stay for 0.09 second into the AV node, and after this it will reach to the precongenial system in a time of 0.04 second. From here to here 0.04 system, and toward the precongenial system it will take a time of 0.3 second. So if we sum up 0.03 plus 0.09 plus 0.04, it will somewhat like 0.16 second. So this 0.16 is a time in which the atrium contract. So it is the time of atrial contraction, 0.1 second. And this time, that is 0.03, in which the precongenial system distributed the impulses to that of the ventricular muscles. So this is the time in which the ventricles contract. I hope you clear. Ventricular contraction time is 0.3 second. So this is what the ECG interpretation, and I will draw some the timings. So we can say these curve moving which shows depolarization or which shows repolarization, they are named as wave. So this, the first one is P wave, and this one is QRS wave or QRS complex. QRS complex. And the final, the last, this one is T wave. And these, the silent wave, silent segments, silent stages, which doesn't show any movement, depolarization or depolarization, so they are called as segments. So we have two segments, that is here is a segment, and here ST segment, and here is PQ segment. So it's not necessary to write here. Right, here is PQ segment and ST segment. And along the wave, along the segment, we called interval. So this is what PQ interval, PQ interval, and from here to here ST, we can say QT will be good if we include all. So it is QT interval, QT interval. So this is what about the ECG, as a little bit information about the ECG. That ECG shows us the electrical conductivity of the heart. According other than this, that is some changes in ECG, why this P wave is before the Q. If this P wave is absent, then what the ECG will call, we will discuss in next video. Thank you.